Let me start by sharing something I discuss with my patients in the clinic every single week. It is a conversation that often begins with a look of pure defeat. If your blood pressure is high, it does not automatically mean you are doing something wrong. In fact, some of the most confused, exhausted, and frustrated patients I have ever treated are the ones who are doing everything exactly by the book. These are people who follow every piece of advice they have ever found on a health blog or heard from a doctor. They eat the salads. They walk their 3 miles a day. They have given up smoking years ago. They have limited their wine to a single glass on the weekends. And most notably, they have completely stripped the flavour out of their food by cutting back on salt until their meals taste like cardboard. And yet, despite all that discipline, when they sit down in my office and we wrap that cuff around their arm, the numbers are still high. It is not just a one-time spike from the stress of traffic, and it is not white coat syndrome. It is a consistent, stubborn elevation that refuses to budge. This is the exact moment when people start to feel a deep sense of discouragement. They feel betrayed by their own bodies because they were given a very simple, almost transactional promise. Do the right things and the numbers will come down. When that promise is broken, they are left in a dark place of wondering, what am I missing? Is my body fundamentally broken? Am I just getting too old to be healthy? Or am I just a ticking time bomb, waiting for a stroke or a heart attack? If you have ever felt that knot in your stomach while looking at a blood pressure monitor, I want you to hear me clearly right now. You are not lying about your habits, you are not being careless, and you are not failing at your lifestyle changes. You are doing the work. The real issue is that blood pressure is not controlled by your habits alone. It is controlled by biological signals deep inside your body. When those signals get stuck in the RN position for too long, your body stops cooperating with you, no matter how healthy your lifestyle looks on paper. This is exactly what we are going to fix today. I am Dr. Carter, and once you understand which specific signal is driving this resistance, the frustration ends and the real healing begins. For decades, the medical community has taught a very simple, linear model for blood pressure control. We were told that high blood pressure equals too much salt. It sounds logical, right? Salt holds onto water, water increases blood volume, and more volume means more pressure. So naturally, the world responded by cutting sodium aggressively. We saw the rise of low-sodium labels on every grocery store shelf in America. But here is what I see every day in clinical practice, and it is a mystery that most people ignore. Some people slash their sodium intake and see massive, life-changing improvements. But a huge percentage of other people slash their sodium to almost zero and see absolutely no change at all. Their pressure stays exactly where it was. Why is this the case? It is because for millions of adults, especially those over the age of 60, blood pressure is not primarily a salt problem. It is a hormonal problem. And the hormone we are talking about today is one you probably only associate with blood sugar: insulin. Most people think of insulin as the diabetes hormone, but in reality, insulin plays a massive underlying role in the regulation of your blood pressure. Let me tell you about a patient of mine named Sarah. Sarah was the definition of health. She ran half marathons, she cooked every meal at home, and she was so afraid of salt that she didn't even keep a salt shaker in her house. Yet, her blood pressure was 155/95. She was terrified. She thought she was doing everything right, but her body was acting like she was eating fast food every day. When we ran her labs, her blood sugar was normal, but her fasting insulin was off the charts. You see, every time your insulin levels rise, it sends 3 very specific, very aggressive messages to your body. First, it tells your kidneys to hold on to every molecule of sodium they can find. Second, it tells your sympathetic nervous system to stay in a state of slight activation, like a car idling at high RPMs. Third, it tells your blood vessels to stay stiff and refuse to relax. This is a perfectly normal process when it happens temporarily, after a meal. Insulin is supposed to rise, do its job, and then fall back to a baseline level so your body can recover. The problem in our modern world is that for many of us, insulin never gets the chance to fall. We are living in a state of constant hormonal signaling, and when that signal stays loud all day and all night, your kidneys are literally forbidden from releasing sodium, no matter how little of it you eat. Sarah's problem wasn't the salt in her diet. Her problem was the traffic signal in her blood that was telling her kidneys to keep the exits closed. This is the hidden metabolic trap, and if you don't address the insulin, You can eat a zero-salt diet until you are blue in the face and your blood pressure will still be high. In the next section, I'm going to show you exactly how this traffic jam works and why it might be happening to you even if you think you are eating healthy. To truly understand why your blood pressure isn't moving, I want you to visualize your bloodstream as a massive, multi-lane highway. In this scenario, sodium molecules are the cars traveling on that highway. Under normal, healthy conditions, your kidneys act as the exit ramps. Their entire job is to monitor the traffic and ensure that if there are too many cars on the road, they are directed off the highway and out of the body. This keeps the traffic flowing smoothly and prevents the pressure from building up. Now let's introduce the traffic controller. Insulin. In a balanced body, insulin is like a smart traffic signal. When you eat, the signal turns yellow, telling the kidneys to slow down the exit process for a moment while the body processes nutrients. But once the meal is done, the signal should turn green again. The exit ramps should open wide, and any excess sodium should flow out freely. The problem for many of my patients is that the signal is stuck on red. Imagine what happens to a highway when the exit ramps are blocked for hours or even days at a time. It doesn't matter if you stop new cars from entering the highway, which is what you are doing when you cut out salt. The cars that are already on the road have nowhere to go. They are trapped. This is why you can be extremely disciplined with your diet and still see high numbers. You are putting fewer cars on the road, but the congestion remains because the exits are physically locked by high insulin levels. But it goes even deeper than just the kidneys. When insulin is chronically high, it acts like a volume knob that has been turned up too far. It causes your body to retain not just sodium, but water along with it. Think of your circulatory system like a garden hose. If you turn the faucet on higher and higher, the pressure against the walls of that hose increases. If that pressure stays high for years, the hose starts to become stiff and brittle. This is the mechanical reality of hypertension. Your blood vessels are designed to be flexible, like high-quality elastic. They should expand and contract with every heartbeat. But high insulin sends a constant chemical message to the muscles surrounding your arteries, telling them to tighten up. It is like trying to drive a car while someone else is constantly pulling on the emergency brake. Your heart has to pump harder just to push the blood through those narrow, stiffened pipes. This is why we call it a silent killer. You don't feel the exit ramps closing, and you don't feel your arteries tightening, but your heart feels the struggle every single second of the day. This brings us to one of the most misunderstood parts of metabolic health, and it is something I call the healthy appearance trap. I see this all the time in my clinic. A patient walks in who is lean, active, and looks like the picture of health. They have a low body fat percentage and they exercise 5 days a week. Yet, their blood pressure is 150/90. They are often more terrified than my overweight patients because they feel they have no levers left to pull. They think, if I'm already thin and fit, what else can I possibly change? The secret lies in where your body stores its fat, not just how much you have. There are two main types of fat. The first is subcutaneous fat. This is the fat you can see and pinch under your skin. While people often dislike it for aesthetic reasons, subcutaneous fat is relatively harmless from a blood pressure standpoint. It is basically just a storage locker for extra energy. The second type is the real villain, visceral fat. This is fat that is packed deep inside your abdominal cavity, wrapping itself around your liver, your pancreas, and your kidneys. You can be a normal weight on the scale and still have dangerous levels of visceral fat. In the medical world, we call this TOFI, thin outside, fat inside. Visceral fat is not just an energy store, it is a metabolically active organ. It acts like a rogue radio station, constantly broadcasting inflammatory signals and hormones directly into your bloodstream. One of the primary things visceral fat does is interfere with how your cells respond to insulin. It creates a state of noise that prevents insulin from doing its job efficiently. To compensate for this noise, your pancreas has to scream. It pumps out more and more insulin just to keep your blood sugar in a normal range. This is why your standard blood tests might come back normal. Your doctor looks at your fasting glucose and says, everything is fine. But behind the scenes, your body is working 10 times harder, producing massive amounts of insulin just to maintain that balance. So, even though you look fit on the outside, your internal environment is flooded with insulin. And as we just learned, that high insulin is the red light that keeps your kidney exit ramps closed and your blood vessels constricted. This metabolic saboteur is why you can't judge a book by its cover. You might be running marathons, but if you have underlying visceral fat or fatty liver issues, your insulin levels are keeping your blood pressure in the danger zone. Understanding this changes the entire conversation. It means the goal isn't just to lose weight. The goal is to change the hormonal signaling in your body. We have to stop the screaming insulin and allow the signal to finally go quiet. In the next section, I'm going to break down the specific daily habits that keep this insulin signal turned on, even when you think you are eating clean. Now that we understand how insulin locks the exits on our sodium highway, we have to ask the most important question. Why is insulin staying so high in people who are eating healthy foods? This brings us to a major shift in modern nutrition that has backfired for millions of people. For years, we were told that the secret to a fast metabolism was to eat small, frequent meals throughout the day. We were told to graze like sheep to keep our blood sugar stable. But from a physiological standpoint, this is a disaster for blood pressure. You see, every single time you put food in your mouth, your pancreas responds by releasing insulin. It doesn't matter if that food is a stalk of organic celery, a handful of raw almonds, or a piece of grilled chicken. While some foods trigger more insulin than others, the act of eating itself is the trigger. I want you to imagine what I call the insulin staircase. You wake up in the morning, and your insulin is at its lowest point. Then you have a healthy breakfast, and your insulin climbs. Before it has a chance to come back down to baseline, you have a mid-morning protein bar. The insulin climbs higher. Then you have a salad for lunch, very healthy, but the insulin stays elevated. Then comes the afternoon green smoothie, then dinner, and finally a small healthy snack like some Greek yogurt before bed. Because these eating events are spaced only 2 or 3 hours apart, your insulin never returns to the floor. It spends 24 hours a day in an elevated state. This is the primary reason why well-intentioned people fail to lower their blood pressure. It is not about the quality of the fuel, it is about the frequency of the refueling. Your body never enters a true low insulin state, which means your kidneys never get the green light to release that stored sodium. Then we have the issue of liquid calories. In the United States, we have become obsessed with smoothies and protein shakes. Even when they are filled with high-quality ingredients, liquid calories hit your system with lightning speed. They bypass much of the digestive process, causing a rapid spike in insulin. And because liquids don't make you feel as full as solid food, most people stack these drinks on top of their meals or snacks, doubling the hormonal load on their system. But the biggest culprit of all, the one that drives the most stubborn high blood pressure, is late-night eating. When you eat close to bedtime, you are essentially forcing your body to stay in a high insulin state while you sleep. This is supposed to be the time when your cardiovascular system recovers. Your blood pressure is meant to dip at night to give your heart and arteries a break. But if insulin is high, your kidneys are still holding sodium, your nervous system is still idling high, and your blood vessels stay constricted all night long. You wake up the next morning, already behind, starting your day with a baseline pressure that is way too high. The good news in all of this is that your body is incredibly resilient. You don't need a PhD in nutrition, and you don't need to follow an extreme restrictive diet to fix this. You don't need to go full keto or engage in multi-day water fasts that leave you miserable. What you need are what I call insulin-low windows. We need to create stretches of time during the day where your insulin levels are allowed to drop all the way back to the floor. When that happens, a beautiful cascade of biological events occurs automatically. Your kidneys finally receive the signal to open the gates. They begin to flush out the excess sodium. As the sodium leaves, the excess water follows. Your blood volume normalizes, your nervous system finally downshifts into a state of rest, and your blood vessels regain their ability to relax. The first step in this reset is the 12-hour hard stop. This is the simplest way to start. If you finish your last bite of food at 7 p.m., you do not eat again until 7 a.m. the next morning. This gives your body a guaranteed 12-hour window where insulin can bottom out. For many of my patients, just moving dinner 2 hours earlier and cutting out the late-night snack results in a significant drop in their morning blood pressure readings within just 10 days. The second step is to stop the grazing. We have to break the habits of the mid-morning and mid-afternoon snack. Aim for 3 solid, nutritious meals. When you eat, eat until you are full, but then give your body 4 to 5 hours of complete rest between those meals. This allows the insulin staircase to become a series of waves rising when you eat. but returning to the baseline before the next meal begins. The third step is to be mindful of liquid calories. If you love your smoothies, try having them as part of your lunch rather than as a separate snack in the middle of the afternoon. This consolidates the insulin response into a single window rather than spreading it out across the day. When you implement these windows, you are essentially fixing the traffic signal at the highway exit. You are allowing the congestion to clear naturally. I have seen patients who have struggled with high numbers for a decade finally see their pressure normalize just by changing when they eat, without even changing what they eat. I want to end today by talking about why this really matters. High blood pressure is not just a number on a screen, and it is not just a box for your doctor to check. It is a reflection of chronic mechanical stress on your most vital organs. Every minute that your pressure stays elevated, your heart is working harder than it was designed to. Your kidneys are being filtered at a pressure that causes microscopic scarring. The delicate vessels in your brain are being stretched to their limit. By fixing your insulin signal, you aren't just lowering a number, you are protecting your future self. You are ensuring that you can live a vibrant, active life well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. You are giving your heart the rest it deserves and giving your kidneys the environment they need to thrive. If you have been frustrated, if you have felt like your body was failing you despite your best efforts, please take this to heart. Your body is not broken. It was simply stuck in a loop of the wrong signals. Once you change the timing and allow those signals to reset, your biology will do the rest of the work for you. If you found this explanation helpful and you want to join a community focused on deep metabolic health, please consider subscribing to the channel. My goal is to bring you the clinical truth that helps you take control of your health without the confusion. Now that you understand the hormonal signal behind your blood pressure, you might be wondering if there are other ways to speed up this process and strengthen your cardiovascular system naturally. It turns out that there are 3 specific types of movement that are scientifically proven to help relax your blood vessels and lower your baseline pressure even faster. I've put all of that information into a dedicated video on the best exercises for blood pressure, and you can check that out right here. I'm Dr. Carter, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.